AA Bullets YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
Unfortunately, Darren Leadfoot could not get to practice because his hauler was involved in a traffic crash, which stopped Darren Leadfoot from getting to practice for this race. After this incident, his hauler was fired! Also, James Garrison, Dirksen DeAugustino, Jay Corner, and Thomas Sanders were all late for practice due to traffic jams. What's up with all these road problems? And Nick Charger didn't attempt qualifying because he thought he already qualified due to a fast practice lap. Now, onto the starting grid, where Carl Edwards will start at pole position, with Bobby Swift to his outside. Row 2 has Martin Carx Jr. and Casey Corner to his outside. Row 3 has the Pancake Shift Right Racing teammates Kurt Buschtire and Brad Karslowski to his outside. Row 4 has the Rush Fenway Racing teammates Matt Karzith and Greg People. Row 5 has Lightning McQueen, last season's champion, and Jimmy Cables to his outside. Row 6 has Denny Carlin and Dale Earnhardt Jr., both hoping to do something this race. Row 7 has two underdogs, AJ Carmeninger and David Raycar. Row 8 has the Gasworth Haas Racing teammates Ryan Newcar and Tony Gasworth. Row 9 has Cal Weathers and TG Castlenut, who has surprised us this season. Row 10 has Clint Bokar and the mean yellow car, Kyle Buschtire, who missed last race. Row 11 has Trevor Blolane and Kevin Carvick to his outside. Row 12 has Brick Yardley and Speedy Comet, who was very speedy in practice. Row 13 has Brian Vickars and Paul Racedraft, who is having a good season. Row 14 has two cars that are not having good seasons, Mark Carton and Jamie McCarry. Jamie's teammate Juan Pablo Montoya will start on the inside of row 15 with the jumper Dud Throttleman to his outside. Row 16 has Mike Yankee Jr. and David Rudikar. Row 17 has Jeff Burnton and the mean orange car, Joey Lagirno. Row 18 has Moray Clutchburn and Ernie Gearson, who will be completing his 38th season in the Piston Cup. Row 19 has Phil Tankson and Reb Meeker, who are both well liked by the fans. Row 20 has Todd Marcus, who is not having a good season, and Brick Hicks to his outside. Row 21 has Chip Gearings and Rex Revler to his outside. And starting in 43rd is Jack DePost, who beat out these 8 cars, among many others, who failed to qualify for this race. Now into the race. Carl Edwards would lead the first 14 laps of this race, but unfortunately, on lap 13, Ernie Gearson would be out because of an engine failure. Joey Lagirno would be 32nd as of lap 14. Who does he wreck? Reb Meeker! Why, you mean orange car? And Lightning McQueen would take the lead after the restart and lead until lap 21, where Carl Edwards would retake the lead from him. He would lead all the way until lap 36. But on lap 25, Doug Throttleman would be out because of a failed jump. And Joey Lagirno would be 34th as of lap 29. Who does he wreck this time? Phil Tankson! Why, you mean orange car? And Juan Pablo Montoya would take the lead on lap 36. 2 laps later, Brad Karslowski would take the lead from him. He would lead for 9 laps before Carl Edwards, a car he previously flipped, would take the lead from him. He would lead until lap 79. In the meantime, Speedy Comet would be out on lap 72 because of an engine failure. Matt Karzith, Carl Edwards' teammate, would take the lead on lap 79, but the very next lap, he would lose the lead to Lightning McQueen, who would also lead for just 1 lap, as David Raycar would be out because of an engine failure. The following pit cycle would lead Carl Edwards to take the lead once again and lead until lap 112, where his teammate Greg People would take the lead from him. He would lead for 3 laps before Kevin Carvick would take the lead from him. He would only lead for 2 laps before Cal Weathers would take the lead from him, leading 2 laps himself before Bobby Swift would take the lead from him, leading for just 1 lap before he'd lose the lead to Jimmy Cables, who would lead until lap 120. Just 2 laps, that's it. But Bobby Swift would be back in the lead for 3 more laps before he'd lose the lead to Tony Gasworth, who would lead all the way until lap 135 before Cal Weathers would retake the lead. leading for just 3 laps before Kevin Harvick would retake the lead once again, leading for 8 laps before he'd lose the lead to Martin Truex Jr., who would lead for 4 laps before lap 150, where Lightning McQueen would retake the lead, leading until lap 153. T.G. Castlenut would be out because of engine failure on lap 153. The following pit cycle would lead Tony Gasworth to retake the lead. Then Jeff Burton would take the lead from him on lap 156. Then 4 laps later, Matt Kenseth would retake the lead, leading for 15 laps before his teammate Carl Edwards would once again retake the lead, leading all the way until lap 200. But unfortunately, on lap 190, Greg Biffle would be out because of engine failure. Tony Gasworth would retake the lead on lap 200 and lead for 12 laps before Carl Edwards would retake the lead, leading until lap 215, where Kyle Busch would take the lead. And he'd lead for 16 laps before Brad Keselowski would take the lead from him. He would only lead for 1 lap before Tony Gasworth would take the lead once again, leading all the way until lap 281, the same lap that Kurt Busch would be out because of an engine failure. And Kurt Busch don't say those words! Kevin Harvick would take the lead after the restart and lead until lap 284, where Maury Clutchburn would take the lead from him, leading for just 2 laps before Cal Weathers would once again retake the lead for 2 laps, losing the lead to Lightning McQueen on lap 287. But then Lightning McQueen would lose the lead on lap 291 to Brick Yardley, who would lead for 4 laps before Lightning McQueen would retake the lead, leading for 6 more laps before Carl Edwards would retake the lead, leading until lap 303. But Tony Gasworth would retake the lead on lap 303 and lead for 3 more laps before Bobby Swift would take the lead once again, leading for 8 more laps before Lightning McQueen would retake the lead once again, leading for 5 more laps before Jimmy Cables would take the lead for himself off of pit cycle. After the pit stops are done, Carl Edwards would retake the lead, leading for 8 more laps before Cal Weathers would retake the lead, leading all the way until lap 332. And then another pit cycle would ensue, and Brick Yardley would take the lead. After that pit cycle was done, Lightning McQueen would retake the lead, leading for 6 more laps before Bobby Swift would once again take the lead, leading until lap 343, the same lap that Jack DePost would be out because of an engine failure. Lightning McQueen would once again retake the lead after this pit cycle and lead for 8 laps before Matt Kenseth would take the lead for himself, leading for 4 more laps. Then the mean yellow car, Kyle Busch would have to take the lead, and then Cal Weathers would retake the lead on lap 365. In the meantime, Juan Pablo Montoya and Trevor Blowlane would both go down a lap on lap 367, the same lap that Carl Edwards would retake the lead, leading until lap 371, where Cal Weathers would retake the lead, leading until lap 376, when Bobby Swift would take the lead once again, leading for 2 laps before Cal Weathers would retake the lead, leading all the way until lap 389, where Tony Gasworth would once again retake the lead, leading all the way until lap 391. Kevin Harvick would take the lead on lap 391 and lead for 2 more laps before Denny Carlin would take the lead for himself, leading for 2 laps before the jumper Jeff Burton would retake the lead, leading for 3 more laps. But Carl Edwards would take the lead after that, leading all the way until lap 399, where Cal Weathers would take the lead once again, leading all the way until lap 405, where Mike Yankee Jr. would take the lead off the pit cycle. Then, after the pit stops are done, Cal Weathers would be back in the lead, leading 7 more laps before Bobby Swift would retake the lead for just 1 lap, and then lose the lead to Tony Gasworth, who would lead for 24 laps before Bobby Swift would retake the lead from him, leading all the way until lap 443. In the meantime, Todd Marcus would go down 1 lap on lap 440. Then Brick Hicks would take the lead on lap 443. And less than 5 feet later, Casey Corner would take the lead. And only a handful of yards later, Kevin Harvick would take the lead on lap 444 and lead until lap 445, where Lightning McQueen would retake the lead, leading for 3 more laps before Tony Gasworth would retake the lead, leading until lap 449, where he'd lose the lead to Bobby Swift, who would lead all the way until lap 456, where Cal Weathers would once again retake the lead, leading for 5 laps before Carl Edwards would take the lead once again. 7 laps later, the Rocket, Ryan Newcar, would rocket up to the front, and then lose the lead on lap 471 to Jimmy Cables, who would lead for just 2 laps before Lightning McQueen would retake the lead for 2 laps, before Matt Karzith would retake the lead once again, leading for 6 laps before Cal Weathers would take the lead once again, leading for 9 laps before Tony Gasworth would retake the lead. He would lead all the way until lap 497, where Bobby Swift would take the lead once again. But on the final lap, Tony Gasworth would retake the lead, and only a handful of yards from the finish line, Bobby Swift would retake the lead. And then he would cross the finish line in first to win the 2011 Los Angeles 500. Tony Gasworth would finish second this race. Carl Edwards would finish third. Martin Carx Jr. fourth. Cal Weathers fifth. Matt Karzith sixth. Brick Yardley seventh. Clint Bocart eighth. Casey Corner ninth. And Jimmy Cables rounding out the top 10. And here is the race's results, all the way from 1st to 43rd. Just in case if you want to know where each car finished this race. Lightning McQueen couldn't even finish in the top 10. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. didn't lead any laps. And Paul Racedraft finished 20th this race. Well, here is the results of this race. And also how many points everyone got. Chip Gearings actually did pretty good for Chip's gearing standards. Rex Revler was the last car to finish on the lead lap, finishing 30th this race. You might be asking, K.A., who won the Piston Cup? Bobby Swift is the winner of the 2011 Piston Cup. And here is the top 40 in points. To see the rest, you need to join the Discord server. Bobby Swift is this year's Piston Cup winner, with Tony Gasworth, Carl Edwards, Cal Weathers, and Lightning McQueen forming the top 5. This is Lightning McQueen's worst season. Well, that's not saying very much, because the other seasons he's finished in the top 3, with Kevin Karvik and Matt Karzith missing out on the top 5. Both Busch Tire brothers finished in the top 10, making Brick Yardley finish 11th. Clint Bocart finished 12th this season. That's, well, alright. Brad Keselowski and Jimmy Cables were significantly better this season compared to last season. And also Dale Earnhardt Jr., who is back in the top 20. Casey Corner also had a decent season. Phil Tankson and Martin Carx Jr. also made it into the top 20. When cars get into the top 20, that means another car or other cars got out of the top 20. Those cars are Mark Carton and Mike Yankee Jr., who did not have as good seasons as last season. Hopefully, they can have a better season next season. Same with Jeff Burnton, the jumper. At least the other jumper is in the top 40. Judd Throttleman. Brick Hicks also had a better season compared with last season. At least he beat the mean orange car, Joey Logano. Jamie McCarry dropped all the way down to 29th compared to his top 20 finish last season. Hopefully, his fortunes will be better next season. David Raycar, Reb Meeker, and Speedy Comet were all very inconsistent this season. Same with Rex Revler. But they consistently qualified, so they finished in the 30s in terms of positioning. David Rudikar finished behind all of them for some reason. Brian Vickers and Paul Racedraft, despite being very close to the bottom of this graph, actually had good seasons. When you consider that there are nearly 200 cars racing in the Piston Cup season this season, and Ernie Gearson finished 39th because he qualified for most races.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
Well, it's the end of the season. I don't have much to say, other than the fact that the 2012 Piston Cup season videos will be coming out soon enough. And you need to join the Discord server to see the rest of the season results beyond the 40th position. And I will also show how many races each car qualified for. The 2012 Florida 500 video will be coming out soon enough. Despite it being around a year and a half since the beginning of the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine, it's still going on. The Ukrainian people did not ask for this. Nobody asked for this. Except for the tyrant and bully Vladimir Putin, who a year and a half ago gave the order for Russian troops to invade Ukraine. They now occupy roughly 1/5 of the country. This map shows the legal borders of Ukraine. Russia illegally occupies Crimea, most of the Donbass, and parts of the Zaporizhia and Kherson oblasts, also coercing Belarus to help them in this war. The Ukrainian counteroffensive is coming, but it's not coming quickly because the Russian military is very powerful. We need to help Ukraine stand up to the bully of Vladimir Putin. And due to the fact that this war started around 18 months ago, many people have simply moved on. But we here at the hashtag KABullets YouTube channel continue to stand with Ukraine. And also are reminding everyone of Ukraine's efforts to win this war. Slava Ukrainie! Heroyam slava! Nechai Shvitsya Daritsya Ukrainie Peremoha! Glory to Ukraine! Glory to the heroes! May Ukraine be granted victory very soon.